Right, hello everyone, and welcome to this tutorial on creating points. In Spoke Creator, points are pretty much the essential building block of geometry within the 3D view here. I've just got two nodes to use an example of how points can be used and why we need to create them. In the first one we have a polycircle here, and at the moment all we're seeing is that it essentially is a series of lines to create the circle, but what's actually happening in the background, if we go up and toggle the points here, you can see that at each intersection of these lines it's actually constructed by a basis of points, such as drawing lines between these. And it's the same if we go and grab some geometry. So for this one I've just created a simple plane. If we go and click and toggle the drawing points on again, you can see that this plane is actually constructed from a series of points in the 3D space. So whenever we're creating geometry we need to actually create the points before going and creating curves, surfaces, or larger volumed objects. So essentially, to create a point within Spoke Creator, we can do this through an atom called points. Now I just press tab there to get into the search menu. It comes up with a whole bunch of results. We click on points, you can see it just drops the atom that creates points in there. We can also find that if we go into atom up top here, to geometry, primitives, points. If you click on that, it also does the same thing and drops the atom in there. I'll just delete that one. So there's a couple of ways of creating points within Spoke Creator. We can just go into the 3D viewport, so we select the atom, go into 3D viewport, and we can actually start to just click to create points within 3D space. You'll notice that they're not really set to any exact values, we're just kind of roughly chucking them in there. So another way of doing this is using a thing called a vector to tell Spoke where we want these points to be. So if we press the tab button again to search and type in XYZ to vector, essentially what we're going to be telling Spoke to do is that we want to create a point on the X, Y, and Z axis. So I'm going to grab that vector, plug it into the points, and you can see that at the moment with the XYZ vector atom selected, we can tell this because it's got the green haze, you can see that the X, Y, and Z values in the parameter window here are all set to 0. So of course when we click on the point here we can see that there is actually a point drawn at origin or 0. So we can now go back to the vector here and actually start to tell it what to do. So I want to create one that's at, let's just chuck 1 and 1 there. We go back to the points here, you can see that the point has actually moved out into 3D space. So it's moved 1 along the x-axis and 1 up the y-axis. So that's using a vector to create points within 3D space. What we can also do, if we have some geometry, so for example we'll just create a plane again like we had at the start of this tutorial. You can actually plug the points that this plane is using back into a points atom. So just this for an example's sake, I'm going to create a points atom again. And if we click on the output of the plane here, we can see we have actually an option for points just down here. So I'm going to get those points, I'm going to plug them into this points atom here, and you can see that we've actually extracted those points from the plane out into just raw format again. So that's how you create points within Spoke Creator.